All right, everybody. So today on the podcast, we have Geoffrey Verity Schofield. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Do a lot of people just call you GVS online?
Well, it's certainly shorter than my full name. Actually, a bunch of people, like part of being sort of in like the public sphere is like you just get advice from everyone, and often it's like unsolicited advice. And some
Yep.
people are like, you need to change your channel name because it's too damn long. So I don't really have any plans to change the name. Um, but yeah, I guess GVS or Verity. My website is Verity Fit, just like to make it shorter because
Okay. Gotcha.
people are too lazy to type in my full name, which is
Yeah.
understandable. Like I don't even do that. So
Right. Right. Yeah. No, you get a lot of unsolicited advice. You get a lot of, we give out a lot of free advice and a lot of free content. And sometimes people still like request, like, you need to do this or you need to do this. And it's always interesting
oh
to
yeah,
see, especially from like a free platform like YouTube or these podcast apps, but that's the way it goes.
yeah. No, you wouldn't believe how many people it's like they ask me a question and it's like I just did a video
Yeah.
on that. Like, hey, can you talk about recomping? And I'm like, I have at least 3 videos about recomping, and it's like they just want something that's like personal and customized and also for free.
Right.
But that's like that doesn't exist. That they're chasing a unicorn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like there's tons of free advice that I give, whether it's through core answers or whether it's through videos or other content. And then there's like more specific but still general advice in terms of like a book. But if it's like personal custom advice to them, like you have to get so much information about them
Right.
that it's literally work. And
Yeah.
that's what coaching is basically. And so
Well,
it's like,
it's funny because I literally just had this experience. I was telling one of my friends about it, and I was like, dude, so this guy, I guess I'm putting him on blast here. He's like in my comment section, like young guy about to do steroids, and I'm like answering a question for him. Then he asks another one. Then I answer another question. Then I answer another question for him. And I was like, dude, like send me an email. So he sends me an email. And I was like, well, look, like I do consultations. I don't really like you. I don't really like promote my coaching a lot, but I do coaching and consultations. And
yeah,
I said, this is what I do. It's, this long, whatever. And his response was like, oh, that's so slimy. You're just trying to like trick me into a consultation. I was like, what? Like it's dude, but it's crazy. Like people would expect you to just sit down for like
yeah,
hours, just like typing away for them. And I
yeah.
even said, I was like, doesn't have to be me, but like you're 20, you're about to start steroids, whether it's like me, Broderick Chavez, somebody, like do
Get
a
some information.
consultation. Yeah, because you're about to do like go down a serious path. But again, that is the
That's their
internet.
health.
So
Yeah. Like general fitness stuff, you can mess up, but like steroids, if you mess that up, the repercussions are way, way higher.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
for sure.
it's amazing how people are like, yeah, they want a lot of stuff for free. And even if they're like, no matter how much stuff you give for free, it's not enough.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
all the tools are there, either like completely for free or like at a very low price for like, a book that's like $15 or something.
Right.
But we'll still want, like at a certain point, like self-help is the best kind of help.
Yeah.
It's where like if you want that personalized service, yeah, you pay for that. But like if you don't want to pay for that, you got to help yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tools out there and the information is out there. You have to
Right.
like go search for it.
Well, that's
You
what's so
know?
interesting now, right? Like I've paid for very little because I've been reading so much since I was literally like 12 years old, all about all this stuff. But I've still at times had a coach because it's like, well, no, they probably don't know that much more than me, but maybe there's an area in this niche that they do know more than I do. There's also the accountability aspect. There's other reasons to hire somebody. And even with, so I made a video that did pretty well on Greg Doucette's cookbook. And I think you and I both share a similar opinion that it's like, it's ridiculously overpriced, but hey,
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to hate on him for charging, like he can charge whatever he wants. And if you want to buy it, like, I think it's silly because these recipes are nothing like advanced. Like you can find stuff like this online, low calorie, whatever online. But if you want to buy it, like that's fine. Like I'm not hating on him for selling it. It's just interesting. Like I don't get like mad at somebody for doing stuff like that, unless I mean when there's a clear taking advantage of somebody, which obviously does happen as well.
Yeah, in my video on him, a lot of the backlash from his fans were like, free market, he can charge whatever he wants. And to me, that was a sign like they hadn't watched my video, because I said like multiple times, free market, he can charge whatever he wants, but also free speech, I am open to criticize that if it is ridiculously outside of the realm of what is real. And my main sort of critique was the marketing language involved. It wasn't the actual, I mean, the price was part of it, but it's the price combined with the fact that he's outsourcing it with the over-the-top marketing. You know, if it's just him, if the email was like his own coaching for a certain price, you know, that's not a big issue. In fact, I actually made a video like a year ago, maybe, where he had like $36,000 per year coaching. And I was actually in favor of that. I said, like, you know, this is his time. He's super busy, super in demand. That is what his time is personally worth. And, you know, I get that as someone who's a lot busier than I was a few years ago. When you have tons of time, or very little time and tons of demand, you know, that tends to squeeze the price up. And when you have as much demand as he does, that tends to rocket the price up, especially if you're already working, you know, 80, 90, 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the way to set the correct price is when, if I send someone the price list and they accept it, I feel nothing. Like, I don't feel happy. I don't feel sad. I'm just like, all right, cool, another plan. Like, it's just, you know, because if you're super happy, it means it was probably like you're taking it like, oh, I got another one, that kind of thing. And if it's too low, and you're like, shit, someone said yes again. And so when I start feeling like pressure with the time, and like I feel like, oh, another one said yes, shit, like now another 1 or 2 hours of writing up a plan, that kind of thing. It's like a sign that the price has to go up. And for him, that's just his price. His price just seems to be, you know, a lot higher than the typical person, because the demand is obviously
that's actually an interesting way. I've not heard somebody put it that way, but that's a good way to put it. And it's funny, because I was telling another coach, like, you were on Abel Chabai's podcast, so shout out to him, and that's kind of how we connected. And so something I said to him is like, and I don't know if you know this, but like, my full-time gig is I'm a dentist. And so my, you know, like, time doing that from a financial standpoint alone is way more valuable than coaching. And so there have been times where I've been really busy and I get a lot of inquiries, and I'm like, I actually don't know if I want to take this, because it's actually just more stress. And the coaching I do is limited to a select number of people, but it's also because I enjoy it. Like, if they have to like stop, I'm almost like, oh, okay. Like, I enjoyed coaching you, and that's part of why I'm doing it. It's not because, like, you know, I need that money really at all.
Yeah, for sure. Like, when you start out, like, I started out and my prices were ridiculously low. It was like $40 for a custom workout plan. And it's because I was broke. It's because I was broke and I had a lot of time, and like the demand wasn't overwhelming. And so I just set it, like, I looked online, I looked at like rival coaching prices online, and I set it at like a third of what it should be. Like half of what it's like, rock bottom, ridiculous prices. And like, they went up as I got busier, and as I became, you know, more involved in YouTube and other projects. And eventually I'll probably just not coach anymore at all, just because, you know, it won't be worth it, or I'll
just have the books
just a
and
few
YouTube.
moments. Ebooks, and then YouTube probably. And I don't even monetize through YouTube, so probably just ebooks, just because the potential is so much higher, and it does take a lot of time, like checking everyone's form, and like, you know, getting, I mean, I wake up to like 40 or 50 emails, like 40 or 50 DMs, and that's just like overnight. That's not even per day. That's just like 8 or 9 hours I was sleeping. And so like at a certain point, like, it's just not worth, you know, taking on new clients. And like, I won't go into like specific financial details, but I've already made more money in May than I did the entire first half of 2020. So it's not, so it's like, so it's been, I guess everyone has their number where it's like, they're away from the financial red zone, like they're away from flying above the trees. And for me, that number is pretty low. Like, as long as I have a few bucks in my pocket, I'm okay. Like, I know it'll be fine. And then you have another number where it's like, okay, now we're definitely fine. Like, we don't have to worry about that side of things. For me, that number is also very low. For some people, that number is super high. And they end up being billionaires and because they have that drive to always get more money
Right.
to buy the next car, the next house, the next company, or whatever. Like for me, I don't have any aspirations of that whatsoever. And so my like peak number is something I'm already fine. So it's like money isn't a driving
Right.
thing. Um,
Do you think
so,
because there's certain products out there where you look and you're like, there's no, like, is there a single person who bought this? And, when you see an ebook for, $10,000 value, now you can get it $997, some ridiculous thing. When I hear $36,000 for a year of coaching, I just think, do you think there's anybody who actually was doing that? Or do you think he was just trying to price himself out of having to deal with it?
well, there's a few reasons why he might do that. First, like if someone is a multi millionaire and they think, Greg is the guy who can help them, it genuinely might be worth it to them. But perhaps there's also, that's the price up front, but then when you message him, it goes down a little bit or something like that. And I know he coached some people for free just because like they were talented or they were also in social media and it's like good for business that way. And then, perhaps there's also, if I charge that much for my coaching, oh, look, my book is only $200.
Right.
In comparison, you know what I mean? Like, so I think there's a little bit of a marketing thing, but it's really hard to tell like exactly what motivates the price just because I'm not seeing the actual demand, like how much there actually is. Like, obviously there is a lot. You don't get 1 million subscribers without a lot of demand for your coaching.
Right.
But on the other hand, like, it's really hard for me to sit here and say like what the actual numbers would be.
Yeah. No, I'm just speculating. When I hear that, it's just you'd have to have no idea. What's that?
Oh, it's out there. It's like the numbers are just like you'd have to be like really rich,
but also ignorant to like what's
exactly. Like, and not shop around and be willing to just toss money away. Like,
right. Like some, like you said, like multi-millionaire, and Doucette was the only person you came across or something, like even if you told me Athlean X charged that much, I could actually believe that because as I don't really follow him, but as far as I understand, like he's got more credentials. He's worked with like, I think a professional baseball team. I could see somebody saying, okay, was that $3,000 a month for the best, trainer in the world, in their opinion. And there's like more validation. But like when you watch a Greg Doucette video and you got this guy screaming at you like Iago for 20 minutes, you think this is worth $3,000? I can't imagine that, but maybe somebody does it.
Well, it's sort of hard to say because they're both sort of like cults of personality. And I have a planned video on the biggest YouTube fitness cults. Mm-hmm. And they really are. Like, if you look at the comments section in a lot of cases, I think Athlean X is actually worse. Like, if Jeff Cavalier says something in the video and you disagree, and you post a comment saying you disagree, be prepared to just get like dozens of people like hating on you in the comments. Like, there's just no rational thought. It has left the building. And I don't think Greg has sort of gone to that point. This G-Shred situation sort of points to that, people still think, at least, in the comments.
Right.
But some channels are like, Athlean X is like, he's too big to fail. Right. He used fake weights and he's still.
That was interesting. That is something I did see where it was like super obvious. And then, dude, like
no one gave a shit.
Nobody gave a shit. And then also even like the lack of rational thought. Like I think there was a response, but again, I don't follow him much, but my understanding was he then did like a 405 deadlift or something to like prove the weights. But the difference in form was like ridiculous, like hard straining versus like, and it was just like, does anybody actually think like, wasn't he doing 315 on bench, like just casually or something like that? Like it's just a joke that anybody could think that. But again, not everybody has all that experience.
Yeah, he tricked. Yeah, he tricked millions of people. That's the thing. Like he did these lifts, which in hindsight, it's like seeing a guy sort of like casually bench 3 plates with no arch, no leg drive, like dropping it on the, like gently putting it on the pins and then pressing it up. Like in hindsight, it looks ridiculous. But no one in the comments at the time of the video was like, hey, hi, guys, cult members, this is bullshit. Right. Actually, there was one guy who was like Geoff makes this look so easy, it's unbelievable. And then in hindsight, where everyone's like, oh, well, yeah, the weights are fake. No wonder it looks so unbelievably easy, because it's not even real. And so, it is like an amazing cult of personality where, he can tell people to breathe out before squats, and people are just like, yeah, fucking breathe out. Yeah, do it.
I also think like with him, everybody was waiting for that response video. And to be honest, like he has surpassed YouTube, right? I mean, he is much more than just like a YouTuber. So honestly, he probably, from his like PR standpoint, made the right move by just ignoring it, because it's like a couple months later, nobody thinks about it. Nobody talks about it other than kids on YouTube. So, I mean, again, I'm not like a professional there, but like I would think like that was the right PR move to just be like, yep, it'll blow over. I think his subscribers went up by like a couple million when that happened. I'm pretty sure.
No. That's the thing. Like once you have a certain number of subscribers, he could have done two things. He could have ignored it, and he did. Like that's what he did. On the other hand, like he could have said, oh, this was stupid. This is what, it was just used for filming purposes. I shouldn't have like claimed those lifts. Even if I've done those lifts, it wasn't in this video and we had to do a bunch of takes. And I think people would have accepted that. And even if he hasn't lost any like subscriber count from, ignoring it and deleting comments and censoring people, etc., I think people in the industry, it's still a huge loss of face. Like all the biggest YouTubers, like they remember.
Sure.
And so, if he goes to like an expo or something, he's the fake weights guy, because
if he went to an expo, I definitely agree. I just looked on YouTube there. I'm amazed that Joe Rogan has 10.6 million followers or subscribers, and Athlean X has 11.6. So he is actually bigger than Joe Rogan now there, which is crazy. So I mean, I can hate on him only so much, I guess. So how long have you been on YouTube? And like, because obviously you kind of like blew up more with the like the G Shred stuff. But what was your kind of trajectory? Was it like you were at, because right now I think you're a little over 20,000 subs?
Yeah, 22 or 23 or something.
So is that mostly recently?
No. It's been gradual. Actually, the G Shred thing was only 4K or so.
Okay.
So I've been sort of trucking along over the past year and maybe 15 months or so.
Okay.
So it's been very gradual, very steady, a couple spikes here and there, but mostly just like traffic coming in from Quora, and then just some organic growth, but nothing crazy. The algorithm.
Yeah.
The content I make isn't super algorithm friendly. In other words, it's not like really clickbaity and doesn't get like millions of views or anything.
Right.
But it's been pretty steady. Mostly just a lot of days of like 30, 40, 50 people subscribing to the channel per day, and then a couple spikes here and there. But it's been fairly linear with like a slight sort of exponential trend.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've definitely had a very slow grind. I mean, I'm only at like 5,000 myself, and that's been like 2 years of just like, you get a bigger guest and it spikes and it spikes again. But mine's mostly podcast and YouTube. I do throw in individual videos that can do quite well, and people generally comment that they like when I do those as well. Probably because, I mean, YouTube is almost an annoying platform to listen to the podcast on, right? Compared to the podcast app. So like, I get that. I never really had the desire to like make individual videos 2, 3, 4 times a week, like some people do, which is definitely helpful, like for sure. I'm just not that incentivized to do it.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. I'll probably put 40 or 50 hours a week just into the channel, just into the videos. Yeah.
Wow.
Like researching, scripting, writing, and then filming myself. Like I don't have a film crew. It's just me and like propping my camera up against a dumbbell and shit like that. And then, edit, and then, obviously making the videos, and then editing takes a stupid amount of time. Like it would be nice to yell at a camera and just chuck that to, to someone else, but like, editing myself. And I don't think that's something I could really outsource I thought about it, but like, I think my editing style is like sort of hard to reproduce, and my sense of humor is sort of involved with the editing. And so that's sort of hard to just like pass off to someone. And then uploading thumbnails and then responding to comments. Like it's basically a full-time job just with that.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Also the coaching as well.
Yeah, man.
So
I had a recent video on Tom Brady's book, and like that was a little outside of my normal audience, but like it was I kind of did it as like it's funny actually. The story is my dad read it and he was like, "Oh, you should read this book. It's got all this great stuff." And I'm like, "Dad, like I know this is going to be horrible." So but literally like as a birthday present to him, I was like, "All right, I'll read the whole book." Read the whole book, took notes, recorded like a 40-minute video that got cut down to 22 minutes. Edited it, all that. That was total probably about 10 hours of work for that one video. Now, obviously my average video, I'm not reading a whole book for, so it's a little different, but, and all of that, you know, maybe that video will get like 1,000 views or something, you know? So it's,
yeah, no, it's really tough at first because I actually started in September of 2019 and like my content was straight garbage.
mm-hmm.
Like I was getting 10-second view duration on like a 5-minute video, shit like that. It was so bad. It was like my microphone was reverberating and echoing and stuff like that. I mean, the information was okay, but it was literally unwatchable for like normal human beings.
Right.
And I was getting like 10 views per video, and I'm pretty sure half of those were me.
Yeah.
And so, and like family members and stuff like that. And so I just gave up. I just gave up for like half a year and then started again in March 2020. And I just, in the meantime, I was just writing on Quora, and I got some like a fan base there, and then they sort of flowed into YouTube. And so the platforms were sort of like cross-pollinating. And then, you know, I've seen some really slow grinds getting to even just like 1,000 subscribers to where it's like, it takes years to get to 1,000. And then other people, you know, they have one video just pop off and they get to like 70, 75,000. Like Josh Brett's V-Shred video. I don't know if you've seen it. It was excellent. I definitely recommend it. Like immaculate production quality. I mean, just incredible. And when you do editing, you start to notice like what kind of content takes a lot of effort. Like Athlean X videos, almost no effort, just him talking and then maybe B-roll footage. Like, I mean, an hour of editing at most, typically. But you know, this Josh Brett guy, his video was like amazing, just like so well put together. Literally something you would see on like the BBC or like some like actual TV. I mean, it was actually better than that, I would say. And you know, that was like one of his first few videos, and it got him from like 1,000 subs to now he's at like 83K or something.
Wow.
So just like, I think he has 5 or 6 videos total right now, but every video is like,
wow. You know, yeah, good for him.
Really,
yeah,
really
there was
high.
a guy I went to, I basically had done like this university, like international program. And there was a guy from Germany there. And like later, a few of us reconnected, and I found out he had like 130,000 subscribers. And the videos were like tech related or something, but the guy had like 6 videos, but they were all just like so high quality that I was just like, oh, wow, like that's way better than whatever I'm doing over here, you know? So I mean, and I admit like my quality, like even it's way better than it was. Like I look back at a video from like a year and a half ago and I was like, oh, like I wouldn't watch this video. Like, you know, if I won't watch it, then, you know, but it is interesting. Do you find that you have to, because I listened to your podcast with Abel, which I think everybody should go listen to. And then I watched your video on Greg Doucette, and I was actually a little surprised because, and then I'll put out there that then I watched your other videos and I was like, okay, that's more in line with what I expected. When I watched your Greg Doucette video, I felt like it was a little more, I don't want to say, not like gimmicky. It was more YouTube-y than I expected based on the podcast, meaning like, you know, just a little bit more dynamic, or like I think you like called him out for like mispronouncing a word or things like that. Like it seemed like it was more like, okay, I'm trying to like capture the audience. And then I would watch maybe like a Mike Israetel video, and it was much more like,
laid back.
yeah, laid back and just kind of speaking the facts. So do you find that sometimes you have to go out of like maybe your natural state to capture an audience?
I think, yeah, that wasn't like me putting on a show or like a character, because you do see some people put on characters
Sure.
on screen.
Definitely.
And like, now they're yelling, now they're like the funny guy, now they're,
Yeah.
and that's sort of like a fake thing that you can see progress over time. For me, it's because I was angry.
Yeah.
It's because I was angry at reading this fucking email, and I cursed. Oh well, a little bit late now.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I was angry from reading this email where it was like the worst, literally V-shred. Actually, it was worse than V-shred. The marketing language was worse than the stuff that I saw from V-shred. Markedly so. And so, that tone, it was because I was angry, point blank. It wasn't like calculated. It was just naturally how I felt based on reading his materials and, knowing what they were doing. But it's not like a drama channel typically.
Right.
The thing is, if you go to like my most viewed videos, a good portion of them are those kind of videos where I see some bullshit, it pisses me off, and then I make a video on it, and the tone is a lot more aggressive than it usually would be on like more of an informational, educational kind of video. And those videos tend to get like better watch time, much better click-through rate, and you can see why some channels are just like, oh well, I'm gonna make only these videos.
Sure, totally.
It's gonna be like 80% videos where it's calling people out, or fake natty or nots, or he said this, and oh, who's a racist, and like it's easy to get suckered down that path to where you only care about the numbers and you're just chasing views and subs and ultimately money, because those sort of translate to financial success in a lot of ways. But I try to have a balance where it's like that kind of content is only a small fraction. And the fact that that small fraction does really well in terms of like click-through rate and views and algorithm is sort of a sad statement on like what people actually click on and watch. Because I prefer making like educational, informative, helpful, useful content.
Right. Totally.
But it sort of has to be a mix. Like if you only make educational, it gets sort of hard to grow the channel. And so you do sort of need this balance.
Right.
And I think people can smell it if you do too much. If it's like only drama, then people are just like, they get tired of it and they get burnt out on it. And you can grow your channel, but people don't stick around. So I try to like, only when something is like genuinely bad, I call it out. If something is like kind of bad, it's not really worth it. I'd rather make a video that helps people. But if something's really bad, I'm also not afraid to like actually call it out.
Yeah, no, I can see that, because like I had, like when I had sent that Tom Brady video to Abel, and he said something like it was a little, I don't know, he didn't say like YouTube-y, but like, that general premise that it wasn't like my natural state. And actually my thought was like, no, it is actually me. I'm just not usually this annoyed by something. And
that's exactly what it was.
A number of my friends who are like, they're aware of the fitness industry, but they're not like in the fitness industry, texted me and they said it was their favorite video that I've done. One, because it's probably more relatable to like Gen Pop, but two, they said like, you genuinely seem like you're enjoying tearing into this guy's bullshit. And like, it was just more like, there was actual emotion of like, I'm reading this book and I'm just like every 10 minutes, I'm just like, how can this be out there and like sold to millions of people? So I get what you were saying for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like, it was very just genuine frustration and being pissed off. And then, of course you're going to get people who are like, you're just doing this for clout, or you're a hater, or like, you're clearly jealous of, and it's like, I think a lot of that is like people projecting their own emotions and feelings. Like if you're a jealous person and you see someone do something like that, you might think, oh, well, this is just because he's jealous of him having a million subs, when it's actually not that at all. You do sort of get haters.
Yeah, and honestly, as much as like I would never want to be a channel that is just all about that, like people in life in general tend to gravitate towards what they get positive feedback on, right? Like if you do two sports and you're bad at one, you usually say, okay, screw that, and you go with what you're good at, right? I mean, that just in general. And when you get, if you're getting like crap views and then you get positive feedback on this gimmicky video that you made, like
Yeah.
it totally makes sense that that's, you know, I mean, you see it in sports, right? Like when there's drama between like an MMA, right? What sells a fight? It's the drama. And so I'm glad I'm not in a position that I need to do that, but I do understand where that comes from.
You can, and YouTube is very good about just straight up telling you which videos do well. Like
Yeah.
I'll just read off a few numbers. Like it's been 2 days since I posted my last video, and it just gives you a straight up readout of the numbers.
Mhm.
And the second G Shred video has, you know, got 36,000 views in the first 2 days. The first one got 20,000. So actually, the second one like surpassed the second one because he struck the video, and then it was like they clearly messed up that. And then my next highest video,
right.
30 brutally honest fat loss tips, just purely informational, has 10,000.
Yeah.
And my lowest one, Frank Zane's physique, achievable naturally, has like 4.4K.
Wow.
So it's like you do see like,
Yeah.
and by now I can predict exactly like
Yeah.
where's it gonna be?
Right.
Because like you know what does well,
Yeah.
and you're sort of incentivized, at least if you go by only the numbers, to put out what is quite frankly unhelpful clickbait, mostly bullshit content.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's, you know, it's a shame, but that's just, it's not even the algorithm. It's just people. Like when people say like the algorithm is like,
yeah,
this video is optimized for the algorithm. No, it's optimized for people.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Like that's what the algorithm is. It's just responding to what people actually click on and then have a longer watch time on. So
Totally.
yeah, it's something like you always feel as a content creator.
All right, so let's get into actual like training talk a little bit. You've been lifting for how long now?
About 7-ish years.
Okay, so it's not like you got into it like in high school, right? Like so you got into almost in like early mid-20s then.
Yeah, I was like 25-ish. Yeah, okay. So I was a distance runner before then, and then you know started lifting pretty late, relatively late. Yeah.
And it's like rough height and weight.
Right now I'm cutting. I'm like 85 to 86 kilos, so like 190-ish, I think. Yeah. 6 feet. Body fat percentage probably 11-ish, I would say.
Okay, so you're like kind of a giant
actual
in China,
11.
Then.
Oh, it's ridiculous. If I'm like walking around post workout in a tank top, especially with the beard, like I've seen jaws literally just
like a Viking man
just drop. Yeah, and it's like I'm probably like, and this is gonna sound big-headed, even if it's just a statement of fact, but like I'm probably, in terms of like muscular development, like 1 in 10,000 person here.
Wow.
Like one person. Yeah, that's because people don't lift here. Steroids isn't really a thing.
Wow.
And so like, yeah, people just, it's a tech city, so people are just like, go to work and they don't really do that, and so they just, and so walking around, I can't even believe if I was on steroids and like 30, 40, 50 pounds of muscle heavier, people would be like straight up running away.
Yeah, I mean, because what average in China, average man's probably what 5'7", 5'8", 150 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Typical.
It's interesting to see how different it is in different cultures. Because like I'll talk to like Abel, and he will like where he's at. Like he said, he's like pretty much like one of the most impressive in his gym, and we have very similar stats, like height, weight, pretty much everything. And I would say at 6'1", currently at 195, like I don't know, 14% body fat, whatever I am.
So pretty similar.
Yeah, very similar. I would say, what's that?
Natty limit.
Right. At least my natty limit. In my like commercial gym, I'm pretty much dead average, like truly. Like there's like plenty of people bigger than me. Now yesterday I was at a strongman gym, so like literally everybody is like 6 foot to 6'3", 270. I mean that's totally different, obviously, but I was like the smallest guy there. But really, like in a commercial gym, I mean there are plenty. I mean, dude, there's a college kid there who's like deadlifting like 550 for reps, and I mean like it's just very normal here to see like guys bigger than me. Which because he was like saying like I don't know like my size, I guess, almost like a body dysmorphia thing, which maybe I have, but Truly, it's just here, it's just way more common. Like all my friends are around my size and all of that, you know?
Yeah, no, it's like maybe there's a genetic factor, like you don't see, but then like you do see Chinese Olympic weightlifters
Hmm.
who are just like ridiculously strong. I mean, they're the best weightlifting country in the world.
Right.
So it's like it's just not really a cultural thing. You know, like, I
Yeah.
think like they're capable of it, but then like maybe their frames are smaller
Yeah.
typically as well. Like you see China typically dominate the lighter weight classes.
Right.
Like you don't see a lot of 100+ kilo Chinese weightlifters. You see a few, but not like, you know, a lot of them. I think maybe there's a genetic factor,
Oh, for
but
sure.
then also like the biggest one's probably cultural.
Yeah.
It'll be weird. Like I'll get just like stares like I'm a freak of nature walking around, and then I'll like hop on the internet and they'll be like, "You are small. Why are you wearing a tank top? You skinny little."
Right.
And I'll be like, "What the like?" I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
confused.
Right. No, it is a huge discrepancy. So I did want to talk about, as like kind of like a wrap up topic, the back and forth between Lyle and Mike and the failure thing. And it's funny because I never thought this would be this big topic, because people would always say like, you don't know how hard I train, right? And the whole train to failure, you don't know how intense I am. And I always thought that was weird because from a very young age, I was pushing like balls to the walls are like very intense. But then I found that like that's actually not that common. Like I would work out with people who were even bigger than me, and like we would do a leg day, and I would be shocked at like when they would stop their reps,
Yeah.
and it's so I actually don't know now like what is the norm, like as far as like how intense people really train. But I will say, as much as like you, like I like Mike, I like Lyle. I've had no issues really with either. It is interesting when you say somebody like that, you did a great video on it, and it was like, here's 10 reps to failure. And it's like, okay, now here I'm really going to go to failure. And it was like
Yeah.
15. And even then it was like not like a slow. And I was like, how is that failure then? Like, and I mean, again, I'm kind of like repeating what you said, not saying it's necessary at all, not saying that like you need to be going like to the point that you're going to like puke every time, but like from a definition standpoint, can we agree like it's like when you literally can't do any more? And I don't know, like maybe we should just drop the topic and say like who cares? But it's just a little weird, like you said, with these studies, they'll say all these sets to failure. So
Yeah, I think it is important because your RPE and how hard you push each set, that determines every single other variable. And if you're a doctor of exercise science and you're talking about your volume, well, that's absolutely impacted by how close you go to failure. Your frequency, it definitely impacts your recovery significantly. That's actually been shown in the literature. And anyone knows who has trained hard anecdotally knows, if you do 2 failure leg training, you're not going to come back in 2 days and like be stronger or even like functional. You're still going to be messed up. And then also it impacts like basically every training variable. So if you want to talk about, and he has tons of videos on like the MRV, MEV, MAV, MTV, all these like TVs, all these MVs, where it's like it's a very systematic approach to structuring your training. But I think what's happened is that he's felt very, very, very threatened by this situation, because if he's come up with this system for calculating your volume and structuring your training and put a lot of his eggs in that basket, and then suddenly people are calling him out on his RPE, and rightfully so, because he's just like way, way off. Like objectively, if you look at the bar speed on the majority of his videos, it'll say in like a caption 0 to 1 RIR, and there'll be like minimal slowing.
Yeah.
And you can't even make the argument for like technical or not technical failure because it's like a machine leg curl or something like that. And so I think perhaps it's a sort of reflexive defensiveness, because this criticism is very, very difficult to respond to when it threatens his entire sort of system, because it impacts the volume, which is a big part of what he talks about, like scaling up your volume for mesocycle, etc. It impacts the frequency. It explains why he trains extremely frequently, like training twice a day, etc. And so, Lyle is objectively right, and And, you know, the way Mike has responded, I think, like he'll be fine. I still consume a lot of his content, but it's also definitely not a general. Like I'm loosely a science-based coach, but I'm a lot more loosely of a science-based coach than I was. Like I used to be very, very into the science thing, but this has sort of made me question a lot of exercise science. Like when you have 45 sets for legs per week, all to failure, and that's better than 30 sets, better than 15 sets. You know, when was the last time you saw someone do squats to failure, to actual failure, 15 times per week?
Yeah, I mean that's
just
totally
like
insane.
it's ridiculous. I mean, even Smolov, I don't know if you know, if you're familiar, it's like a Russian squat program.
Yep.
I mean, that's like not to failure, and it's like 25 sets per week or something.
Yeah, destroys
9 plus 7 plus 5 plus 4, so it's 25 sets per week. Yeah. And that's like considered way over the top, and it's not to failure. So, you know, 45 sets on legs to failure per week. I mean, that's just like, and then when Schoenfeld was actually, Abel did a really good video on this. You know, when Schoenfeld was questioned about this, he's like, oh, well, I don't know. I wasn't there. Like, my name is on the study, but I didn't actually conduct the research.
Yeah.
If you look at, like, there's footage of him going to failure, and it's like not really what I would consider to be failure and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, man. And like,
you know, he said like, oh, like,
it kind of bothers me actually, because like, I don't know. I feel like when somebody is praised for something that you consider very average or normal, there's like almost, it's a little like bothersome. And again, like when I see somebody like, oftentimes they're like, even like, they could be so much bigger than me. So I get it, but they'll be like, oh, look how intense they train. And it's like, dude, like I've done all of this for years, and frankly, it didn't make a difference that much, you know? So just to be clear, like truly though, like I trained probably my most intense ever in high school, like just ridiculous leg workouts that like they'd be on a Saturday, and by Wednesday I'd be like, oh crap, that workout's coming out, like would throw up. Personal trainer would like ask me if I'm okay, that kind of like intensity. And it didn't make my legs bigger than just like I would call it intelligent training. But in any case, I have helped conduct a couple of studies back when I was in college, and man, like there's just a lot that goes on in like a university lab that like I'm having to teach some of these kids how to squat, even to like to be in the study. And, you know, again, are they like really going, and I'm not trying to say that's all universities and that's all studies. I'm just saying that like, if you're not,
the thing, like there's no consistency in the failure. You'll have some populations and their failure is like actual failure, like the failure that you and I know, and it's like it sucks, like it's actually not something you can do a lot of. And then other failure, you know, Schoenfeld actually referred to this. He's like, well, my primary objective is to not get people hurt, and so if they rack the bar, what do I do? And he's right, like you can't just like go on snapping people up for your study, but at the same time it kind of like there's no objective definition of failure. That's the big problem.
Yeah, well, I like that you had the video of yourself doing it, because, and it's funny because like Mike is actually a really nice guy. Like even like beyond like what you'd see online, like I know he's like helped a lot of people out with stuff, but it's interesting to see his interactions with Lyle. And like I get it, like Lyle's very abrasive, so I get that. But your videos were good. I think the video of you doing the cable crossover is tough. Same thing with like a barbell row is tough, because like a slight change in momentum, you can get like 5 more reps. But like the one where you did seated leg curl, the shoulder press, I have a video of me doing like a 20-some rep leg press. And one of Mike's arguments is like, well, if I keep the tempo slow, it's going to be more constant throughout. But I do like, in this leg press, I like basically what he's saying is if it's already slow, like it won't change. But I still think, and my video shows it, I'm doing a 3 count negative and then a slow up. And even on like the 22nd rep was slower than the 21st rep or whatever it was. And there's a clear, okay, got it, you know?
And there's no sticking point at all. And I mean, it's just like, really, they couldn't have gotten one more. Like there were no signs of fatigue. There's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of grimacing. Like it looks intense. There's a lot of, the set was very Russian, but was it actually to failure, no, like
Yeah.
objectively no, because well, first of all, he chose a really bad exercise because it's the kind of leg press where if you fail, you get
You just,
squashed.
yeah, that's
You
a
just
tough.
like you're screwed. And so
Yeah.
like, and he said that in the video. He's like, well, I don't want to fail because like I'll get pancaked or something.
Right.
And it's just an excuse. Like it's a damn good excuse.
Yeah.
It's a good reason not to fail a leg press. Like the best reason I could think of. You want to survive,
Right.
but it's still an excuse, and it's still like in the back of your head
Sure.
when you're doing the exercise. Especially on something like, it's not like a bench where someone can spot you. If you fail the bottom of a leg press, like the whole gym is going to have to come over to like hoist the thing off of you.
Yeah. Right.
So
right.
it's just like a really poor choice of exercises to actually show real failure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think part of it is also like once you're an expert, and this is something I've experienced, and I'm not calling myself an expert, but once you're viewed as an expert, or like you're viewed in this position of authority, of power, of knowledge, of whatever, it becomes really hard to respond to criticism because you have like this idea, and it's, you know, whether it's your technique, whether it is your RPE, RAR, you know, whether it's something like your views on something, it's really hard to almost like keep an open mind because, you know, you're viewed as someone who's like this infallible authority who isn't still learning, and they're still like, you know,
Right.
they know everything. And so if you're like, I haven't considered that, or maybe you're right, it's like you're sort of getting something taken away from your reputation. And I think especially if you're like a doctor in that field, like it might be hard to I guess keep an open mind, or
For sure.
keep
For
like
sure.
open to criticism. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, before the trolls come in, like what you said, we like Mike here. We think he's a great resource.
I'm a
so nothing.
I'm a big fan of, like, he's definitely in my top 10 YouTube fitness resources, like absolutely. And I consume, you know, the majority of his content for sure, which is why it's sort of like disappointing to see this whole situation unfurl.
Right. All right, man. Well, thank you for taking the time. I know it's getting a little late over there. So we'll have links to all your stuff below, but where can people find your stuff?
Just Geoffrey Verity Schofield on YouTube, on Instagram, and then also the same on Quora. And then my book is on verityfit.com, and it's very helpful for people. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks again.
Yeah. See ya.